Welcome to the Whistleblower of the Week podcast, hosted by FBI whistleblower Jane Turner. Join her as she shares the stories of real-life heroes and people of integrity.
And I'm so excited to have today John Kiriakou. And he is somebody that you really need to meet. He's fabulous. He was born in 1964. He's lived several lives in the last 60 years. He's Greek American and former CIA. And he was an intelligence analyst and operations officer in the Central Intelligence Agency. He is a journalist, an author, and a damn fine human being. Welcome, John. I am so excited to have you on as a brother whistleblower after being off the air for several months with fighting cancer.
Yes,
so
indeed.
I'm just delighted. Welcome.
I'm very happy to see you, and I'm happy to see you looking so great.
Yes, and I will share with you, after all that chemo and double mastectomy and 60 rounds of, being flashed with radiation, I have come to the decision, after going through all that whistleblowing was harder. I'm dead serious. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I'm going to write about that because I was left stunned as I look back. The whistleblowing portion of my life was harder. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk today about yours because you have an incredible career. Incredible.
I had a good career.
Yes. And even better now. I mean, you have blown up. Let me ask you though, I'd really like to know a little bit about your background and your parents, because I often find that whistleblowers all share kind of the same common background ideals, and their parents are usually the same. So tell us a little bit about your mom and dad and where you came out of. And
Sure. I think I should probably start with my paternal grandparents. All four of my grandparents came from Greece, from the island of Rhodes. My father's parents came in 1931 and my mother's parents in 1934. My father's parents were major players in my life. We were very, very close. And until the day he died, my grandfather had a framed picture of Franklin Roosevelt on the TV, to the point where when I was a child, I thought he was a relative of ours. And when I got old enough to understand, what was what and who was who, my grandfather said that we owed everything we had to Franklin Roosevelt, because without him, we could have never remained in this country. We could have never become productive citizens. And my grandfather had a third grade education, but both of his children ended up with PhDs. My father got a bachelor's degree in music, a master's degree in education, and a PhD in music education. My aunt, Chrysanthi, got a bachelor's degree in nursing, a master's degree in nursing, and a PhD in hospital administration. So this was really the land of opportunity. And because of that background, when I became an adult, or even when I just went away to college, I only considered careers in public service, because the idea was that this country was so good to us, we had to do something to give back. And so I only considered the Foreign Service, the CIA, maybe Capitol Hill. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, very near my grandparents. They were constantly in our lives. They would visit every Thursday. We would visit them every Sunday, plus every holiday we're together, and we were on the phone all the time. And I remember my grandfather, I was in 5th grade, and he said, "What are you reading?" And I said, "It's a biography of Thomas Jefferson." He goes, "Why?" "Biography of Alexander the Great. That's what you need to be reading." And I did as I was told, and I went to the library and got the biography of Alexander the Great. So they were very, very impactful in my life.
Wow.
My parents were both elementary school teachers, public school teachers. My father ended up becoming a principal and was a principal for 42 years. My mother was a third grade and then fifth grade teacher for 22 years. And again, it was all about public service.
Yeah.
And so when I went to school, I grew up in Amish country in Western Pennsylvania, very, very rural, very boring, nothing happening, the Rust Belt. Most kids sort of escaped to Pittsburgh. And that wasn't far away enough for me. And so I developed this fascination to the point of obsession with the Middle East. When I was 9 years old, I told my parents that I wanted to be a spy when I grew up. And they thought that was cute. And then at Christmas, they gave me walkie-talkies. So my brother and I would, walk around the neighborhood talking on our walkie-talkies. But when I was 16, I told my father specifically that I wanted to be a spy in the Middle East. And he said, still with the spy business? Can't you be like a dentist or something? And I said, Dad, I want to live in the Middle East and I really want to be a spy. And I became a spy in the Middle East. I went to George Washington University. I got a degree in Middle Eastern Studies. I stayed for a master's degree in legislative affairs, but with a focus in American foreign policy analysis. And then my grad school advisor recruited me into the CIA. I spent the first 7.5 years of my career as an analyst on Iraq. I did overseas tours in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain. And then I switched to counterterrorist operations. And I did an operational tour in Athens. Then I became the chief of counterterrorist operations in Pakistan. And then I finished my headquarters career as the executive assistant to the CIA's deputy director for operations. And then my final tour was at the United Nations. I was assigned to the UN Security Council, and then called it a career.
And I have a question about that, John, because I see that you were given just the best ratings that you can get in the CIA.
Yeah.
You were given awards.
I got 12 Exceptional Performance Awards,
right?
The Sustained Superior Performance Award, and the Meritorious Honor Award with medal.
You were, you were no schlump. I mean,
no.
And here you were in the middle. Yes, you did. And they recognized you for that. So they thought extremely highly of you. And here you are, chief of counter-terrorist operations in Pakistan. I mean, some of the most volatile, important postings. Why did you walk away from that? Especially since from just a little kid, that's what you wanted to be, a spy.
The real reason that I walked away, I resigned after 15 years because I had gotten divorced and my sons were young. They were 7 and 4. And, kids need their dad, especially little boys. And my ex-wife went back home to Ohio, and I just couldn't bear the thought of living without my kids.
Yeah.
And so I decided to resign and go into the public sector, the private sector, rather. I went to work for the Big Four accounting firm of Deloitte & Touche. I was the deputy director of their competitive intelligence practice. And so they told me in the interview process, we don't care where you sit when you're writing the report. I mean, if you want to be at your folks' house in Pennsylvania or at a Starbucks, around the corner from your kid's house, that's fine with us. And so I resigned from the agency and went to work for Deloitte. It was the most boring job I ever had in my life, but it was the best group of people that I ever worked with in my life. And I did that for almost 4 years until fate intervened and everything changed.
Yes, and fate did intervene. I think it's interesting that the person who solicited you for the CIA was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So he must have passed judgment that you were very well adjusted.
Yeah, his exact words were, he was looking for people who would fit into the CIA's culture. And he said, you would fit into the CIA's culture.
Exactly. And you did. You were just a superstar.
I thrived.
You were a superstar. So the family, which of course you valued that more than anything, which makes you a very honorable man, as you know.
Thank you.
you had 5 sons, the same as Thomas Drake, which I
Or
think is
four sons and a daughter.
yeah, and he has 5
Yeah.
sons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you share some commonality there,
We do.
which I think is great.
Tom Drake is one of the finest human beings I've ever had the pleasure of encountering in my life. And I met him through the great Jesselyn Radak, just days after my arrest in 2012. And Tom was one of those handful of people who I credit for saving my life.
Yeah.
I could not have gotten through that awful experience without the wisdom and advice and friendship of Tom Drake.
Yeah. He's amazing. And now you enter his same rank. I mean, I
thank
just
you.
am so proud of you two, and it's just stunning as far as I can see. But then here again, many lives you've led, and you've been put in these situations, which lead me to ask you, do you believe in divine intervention? I mean, you have been in the right place at the right time, even though at the time it must have looked terrible. But looking back, do you believe you were in the
That's the key right there, looking back.
Yeah.
Because at the time,
Oh,
I was raised in a pious, church-going Greek Orthodox household. And I remember saying to God, am I really that bad a guy that I deserve this?
yeah,
The whole US government falls on my head.
yeah,
3 counts of espionage
yeah,
for having lunch with the New York Times and
yeah,
speaking to ABC News about a program that was clearly illegal.
yes,
But it's funny, Jane, because I give people this advice all the time. Things really do get better. They
yeah,
really do. And if you know
Mhm.
in your heart, in your gut, that you're right and the other side is wrong, you're going to be okay. And
Exactly.
that's what's happened. Before we started recording, I mentioned to you that my detractors at the CIA, who were very powerful and very dangerous men,
Yes.
and one woman, are all now either dead or retired. They're
Yeah.
gone. And
Yeah.
I'm the one who still commands, time in front of the TV cameras or in front
Right.
of the podcast microphones. It's my side of the story. That's the
Right.
side of record.
And in your voice. And in your
Yes.
voice. No one's interpreting your case for you.
Nope.
It's your voice.
Nope.
Which is arriving at the other side, which is just thrilling in your case. Just thrilling. But now you do share. You did go to jail.
23
And
months.
long time.
Mhm.
And I'm sure, knowing the type of person you are, it was no picnic.
No. In fact, actually, just coincidentally, I
Mhm.
wrote a book about it while I was in doing time like a spy, how the CIA taught me to survive and thrive in prison, which, interestingly enough, won 2 literary awards. I wrote it in longhand on legal paper, and every
Wow.
once in a while, the guards would come into my cell and confiscate it and destroy it. So they said it was damaging to prison morale. And so what I ended up doing was writing every day. And every day when I was done writing, I would put it in an envelope, mark it legal mail, eyes only, which meant that they couldn't intercept it. And I
Right.
would send it to Jesselyn Radak. And she saved dozens upon dozens of these envelopes. And when I got out of prison, I took them all. I ended up repeating a lot of the book because I couldn't remember what I had already written, or was it confiscated or was it not confiscated. So I paid a Georgetown University undergrad $500 just to type it all, onto a thumb drive, and then I edited it and I sent it to the publisher. But
Wow.
yeah, on my very first day, it was clear to me. You know what? Before my first day, one of my attorneys took me aside and he said, listen, I'm going to say something important and I need for you to understand it. He said the
Okay.
CIA is very upset that you only got 23 months.
Yes.
They're going to try to set you up and trap you into doing something because they want you in there for at least 5 years. So beware. And I said, okay. And I was there about 4 months. And a guy in my housing unit, an Afghan American pharmacist with an unfortunate OxyContin problem,
Yeah.
came up to me, nice guy. And he said to me, hey, John, there's a guy that wants to meet you. He's the spokesman for the Taliban. And I said, the spokesman for the Taliban? Are you talking about that case from New Jersey? And he said, yeah, that guy. I said, I don't have any desire to talk to that guy. And he said, oh, okay, I'll tell him. A few days later, I'm in the yard, walking around the track, and this guy with a beard halfway down to his waist is walking toward me with his hands outstretched to shake my hands. And I put up my hands and I said, don't touch me. And I looked just past him, and there was a guard in the woods outside the fence with a camera with a long distance telephoto lens. Click, 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 click. So my hands were up and I said, don't you dare touch me. I will drop you where you stand. And he said, come on, man.
Whoa.
We have a lot in common. And I said, we have nothing in common other than the fact that I spent my career trying to kill people like you. I said,
that's right.
Back off. And he put his hand down and finally walked away. So I was like this the whole time. I never touched him, never shook his hand. Then the cop ran away from his little hiding post. And just 2 days later, that prisoner was transferred out. He was in our prison for 6 days.
Yep.
6 days.
He was there to set you up.
To set me up.
But let's not get too far away from the reason you ended up in jail, along with other prestigious whistleblowers like Reality Winner. And, of course, Thomas Drake didn't actually go to jail, but he suffered tremendously.
Yes.
Natalie Edwards, who was the FinCEN whistleblower.
Yes.
All ended up in jail because they took the righteous road. Let's talk about the righteous road you took, which ended you up in jail. And it's something so horrific. I just would think the people on the government side would hang their heads in shame. Tell us about what you blew the whistle on.
I blew the whistle on the CIA's torture program. I had been the chief of counterterrorism operations in Pakistan after 9/11, and I was responsible for the capture of the very first high-value target, Zain al-Abidin Mohammed Hussein, who was known as Abu Zubaydah. We believed at the time that Abu Zubaydah was the number 3 in Al-Qaeda. He wasn't. He was a bad guy, but he was not the number 3 in Al-Qaeda. He had nothing to do with 9/11. Well, I had no idea what was going to happen to Abu Zubaydah once we caught him. I turned him over to a rendition team, and they disappeared into the sky on the CIA's private jet. And then a couple of months later, I returned to headquarters. It was at headquarters, in the cafeteria, no less, that a senior officer approached me and asked me very casually if I wanted to be trained in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques. I'd never heard the term before.
No.
He told me what they were. I said, that is a torture program. And very defensively, he said, it's not a torture program. DOJ approved it, and the president signed it, and we're going to get rough with these guys. So I told them that I had a moral and ethical problem with it, and I believed that it was illegal. I didn't care what the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel said, OLC. This was an illegal program. I was the only person out of 14 who were approached who declined the torture training. And then Abu Zubaydah was tortured mercilessly beginning on August the 2nd, 2002. So I kept waiting for somebody to go public and to say that this was happening. And indeed, someone blew the whistle on the secret prisons that the CIA had set up. There was a woman whom I respected deeply, who was at the White House. They escorted her out of the building, took her badge, told her never to come back. But to this day, she adamantly says that it was not her. Whoever it was, they're an American hero.
Right.
We'll never know who it was.
Right.
But anyway, in December of 2007, Brian Ross called me from ABC News. Nobody had gone public over Abu Zubaydah. But Brian said that he had a source who said that I had tortured Abu Zubaydah. I said that was absolutely untrue. I was the only person who was kind to Abu Zubaydah. And he said, well, you're welcome to come on the show and defend yourself. I had never spoken to a journalist before. I didn't know that was an old reporter's trick. I said, I'll think about it. And then in the intervening days, that was on a Monday. On Wednesday, President George W. Bush gave a press conference in which he said, he looked in the camera and he said, we do not torture.
Oh.
And I said to my wife, my second wife, she was a senior CIA officer. I said, he is a bald-faced liar.
Mm-hmm.
He's just looking the American people in the eye and he's just lying to them. And then on Friday, the president comes out of the south portico of the White House, walking toward the helicopter, Marine One, to fly to Camp David for the weekend. And a reporter shouted a question at him about torture, and he stopped. And he said, well, if there is torture, it's because of a rogue CIA officer. And I said to my wife, Brian Ross's source is at the White House, and they're going to try to pin this on me. I'm going public.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called Brian and I said, I will give you your interview. And I decided in the, whatever it was, 4 or 5 days between Bush's statement and the interview that I would simply tell the truth. And so I went to ABC News here in Washington and I said 3 things. I mean, I said a lot of things, but I said 3 things that were important. I said that torture was official U.S. government policy. It was not the result of a rogue. I said the CIA was indeed torturing its prisoners. And I said that the torture program had been personally approved by the president himself. And then the whole government just fell on my head.
Yes. Yes. Because you revealed rot in the soul of America, didn't you?
Yeah, I sure
I
did.
mean, that was a shocker that our country could do something like that.
You know, Jane,
because we're the shining city on the hill.
Exactly. And I say that all the time. Ronald Reagan said we were a shining city on a hill. We were a beacon of hope for the rest of the world because we had respect for human rights and civil rights and civil liberties.
Right.
But we didn't. You know, when I was overseas, I was on rotation to the State Department for 3 years. And twice I was the human rights officer. So I wrote the annual human rights report that went to Congress, and I took that job seriously.
Yes.
I remember going into the Minister of Interior's office in Bahrain and saying, Your Highness, you cannot murder a 15-year-old child because he marched in a pro-democracy demonstration. A peaceful one at that. I have to report this to Congress, and they could cut off arms sales. You have to respect human rights. Well, then 5 years later, 9/11 happens, 6 years later. And then what? Then CIA station chiefs all around the world are going in saying, don't pay attention to the human rights guy. We want you to open a secret prison and we're going to torture people there. Or better yet, you torture them and then just give us transcripts of whatever they say.
Yeah.
What kind of shining city on a hill is that?
It isn't. It isn't.
The interview will continue after this brief message. Become part of the growing grassroots movement that supports whistleblowers around the world who risk their careers, financial security, friendships, and even their freedom to speak out against wrongdoing. Make a one-time gift or become a monthly donor today. Every donation makes a difference. Visit whistleblowersblog.org to give.
And you know what makes me really sad, John, is the fact that that gives now every other government in the world the right to do it to our people.
Exactly. It's not an accident, Jane, that even ISIS, when they would kidnap an American, and they did kidnap American journalists, they would make them wear orange jumpsuits before beheading them.
Yeah.
And it's because we made our prisoners wear orange jumpsuits.
Right. And then those horrific pictures that came out, you know, where they had them naked and
Yes.
scaring them with dogs. And
Exactly.
it just does not meet the standards that this nation has so long espoused.
Yes.
But then here you are, you're riding the whirlwind because they must have revealed your name because they came after you. Or did they not?
Exactly right. Oh,
They
no,
did reveal
I'm
you.
100% sure that they had revealed my name. Yes.
Okay. Boom, there you are.
Yeah.
Did you have legal representation during that time?
I'm glad you
rush
asked
into
that.
it? Yeah. Did you rush into it and just
This
didn't have
is
any legal?
this is the most important advice that I can possibly give any would-be whistleblower. Don't make the mistake I made. I just went and did the interview. The only thing I would change in this entire experience is don't open your mouth unless an attorney is sitting next to you, and preferably an attorney skilled in whistleblower defense. Don't
Amen.
say a word.
A word. Amen, brother. And you learned the hard way, didn't you?
Oh boy, did I.
Oh,
I had to
boy.
be reactive, Jane.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I ended up with the best lawyers money could buy. The Washington Post called my attorneys legal titans.
Yeah.
I mean, A-list attorneys.
Right.
But still, I was reactive.
Exactly. And that's what happened to Reality Winner and Natalie Edwards. And it's
That's
just,
right.
it makes you so sad because, you know, they have the best intentions. They have a moral compass, which is pointing north like you. And they're concerned about treatment of other people and how, you know, our nation is not living up to what it should be. And it's not justice, John. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the government wasn't seeking justice in your case. It seems to me they were looking at retaliation, reprisal, retribution, and just punishing you. You know, punish you.
My attorneys were unanimous in their belief, and they used to say this to me all the time. This case is not about John Kiriakou. You're small potatoes for them. This case is about frightening any other would-be whistleblower, whether it's in the CIA or the FBI or NSA or even the Pentagon, frightening them into silence. You see what we did to Kiriakou?
Yep.
He's bankrupt. He lost his family. He's going to go to prison. He lost his pension. You want to be like him?
Yep.
Or you want to just keep your mouth shut?
And the majority of people keep their mouth shut, John. This is what makes it so interesting and why I love talking to whistleblowers is because they're unique and they possess certain characteristics that do not allow them to keep silent.
Yeah.
You know, they have a driving need to reveal injustice.
Yes.
And torture is injustice. I mean,
it's injustice. Jane, forgive me for preaching or pontificating.
No, go for it.
We have a law in this country called the Federal Torture Act of 1946, which bans by name exactly those torture techniques that we used against prisoners. Besides the fact that we executed Japanese soldiers who had waterboarded American POWs. We're the authors of the United Nations Convention Against Torture. We can't just pretend that these laws don't exist.
Right. And we have fallen down, haven't we?
Yes.
Do you see us still down on the ground in terms of the morality, the justice aspect? Do you think we're still down on that ground?
I do. I do believe that we're still down. And I think there's a lot of blame to go around. Certainly, you know, whoever happens to be occupying the White House on any given day or in any given year. And this is not a partisan issue. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House. They're weak when it comes to civil rights, civil liberties, and human rights. But I put equal blame on Capitol Hill because we have oversight committees that really, as you well know, Jane, they're no more than cheerleaders for the likes of the CIA, the FBI,
Mm-hmm.
really the entire intelligence community, the defense community, they don't oversee anything.
No.
They just rubber stamp everything.
Rubber stamp. That's what they do. Thump, thump, thump. Yeah, and we've seen that, haven't we? The other thing I'd like to point out to our audience, which is extremely important, is that you have helped other whistleblowers. I know one
Oh,
personally
yeah.
that he was not in good shape. As you know,
Yeah.
some whistleblowers are able to handle things a little bit better than others, and the majority of us just are beat to death. You know, we
Yes.
really are. But I know you put out your hand and you kept him from slipping down. And
I
boy,
did.
that's
I
a
knew.
wonderful thing to do.
Oh, it was the least I could do, and it's not worthy of thanks. I had so many people offer me a helping hand when I was at my lowest. I knew that he was struggling mentally, emotionally. The pressure is all consuming,
Oh,
and it was just swallowing him up.
hmm
You know, if you can help somebody just by getting them out of the house for 3 or 4 hours or going to dinner, you
hmm
know, it's the least you can do. And like I say, so many people helped me. So many people reached out proactively to help me. It was the least I could do. I got an email from an attorney today, this morning, asking me if I can help another whistleblower. I've got the email right here in front of me, asking if I can help another whistleblower. And I said, absolutely yes. I actually
absolutely.
brought up your name and Jesselyn Radak's name and Tom Drake and a handful of other people.
That's right.
And I'm going to put everybody in touch. I'm going to do that today.
Yeah, and we're more than happy to do that, as you know, because that's part of
Yeah,
our mission now,
that's
isn't
it.
it? That's
That's
part
right.
of our journey is helping others.
That's right.
Because all of us can remember how alone we felt and how desperate things seemed because the whole government is
Yeah.
just kicking the dust bunnies out of you.
Yes, indeed.
And
Absolutely true.
oh yeah, and they've blackballed you in your industry.
Oh, yeah.
They're just
Oh,
vicious,
yeah.
vicious.
Oh,
So
it's never
I
ending.
commend you. I
Oh,
commend
thank
you
you. You
for
know,
being there.
I'll tell you why I fought so hard.
Hmm
Daniel Ellsberg, who of course
Right.
is the godfather of all national security whistleblowers and a genuine and bona fide hero to all of us. Dan said something to me that was life-changing. Dan blew the whistle on the Vietnam War with release of the Pentagon Papers in 1970. The
Right.
Nixon administration not only ruined his life, but they tried to get him to commit suicide.
I
They
know.
charged him with espionage, but he was never tried because they went so far as to break into his psychiatrist's office, steal his psychiatric records, and then just release them to the media. And the judge threw the charges out. Dan told me that for all intents and purposes, he never worked again.
Yeah.
He said he had been poor since 1970, and it was only because of the generosity and kindness of his brother-in-law, his wife's brother. His wife's parents cut them off cold turkey because they were Nixon, followers. And
Yeah.
Dan brought shame on the family and all the same crap we've all heard.
Yeah.
And so it was only because of the generosity of his wife's brother that they were able to survive. And
Mhm.
he said to me, his exact words were, "No national security whistleblower has ever made a financial comeback." And I
Oh
said,
yeah.
"By God, Dan, that is not going to be me. I'm going to fight until I do make a comeback. I'm not going to let them have the last laugh." And so I've been relentless.
Yes, you have. Relentless. And I just love what you're doing.
Oh,
Not
thank you.
only are you relentless and you're trying to restore integrity to our government, but you are showing a path for other whistleblowers because you're right.
I hope so.
The government wants to beat you up so badly that other people who are thinking of maybe telling the truth are like, no, can't do that. I mean, you lose families, you lose
Yeah, you
your
do.
job,
I even had a cousin older than I, whom I had always respected, and he told me that he just couldn't speak to me anymore because first cousin, because I brought shame on our family. That's what he said. And I said, "I brought shame on our family." I said, you imported drugs from the Colombians. And I brought shame on our family. I said, you think I didn't see your name in the Washington Post as the coke dealer to the mayor of Alexandria, Virginia, and that you ran to Greece to hide until the statute of limitations was expired? You think I didn't know about that? And I'm the one who brought shame to our family.
Yeah. Every whistleblower has that story. I had a relative who said, well, why would the FBI do that if it wasn't true? Well, as people are finding out, yeah, they do these things.
Oh, boy. Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Yes, they do. So tell me your future, because you are a rock star right now.
Oh, thank you.
You're a
I've been
rock
very
star.
fortunate, Jane. I've been
And
very fortunate.
You're coming back. So this is what your dream was. You're going to come back, and you have been.
Yeah.
So what is your future going to be now?
Well, it took me 12 years to become an overnight success. That's what my brother says.
Yes.
When I got out of prison, I literally could not find a job anywhere. I mean, I was turned down by Target and Safeway and McDonald's and Uber. We don't hire felons. We don't hire felons. I literally could not find a job anywhere. And so I finally got a crumb from a think tank in Washington called the Institute for Policy Studies. So they offered me a job that paid minimum wage, but I would have to have an ongoing GoFundMe to raise the money for my own salary. I did that for a year, and then they said, this is untenable. Best of luck. And so I left. I had twice turned down an offer of a radio show at Sputnik Radio, which is a radio network owned by the Russian government. But by then, my wife and I had split up, and it was either do that or, go on food stamps.
Right.
Quite literally.
Right.
And so I said to the Russians, if I took this job, I would want the freedom to criticize anybody I wanted, including Vladimir Putin. They said, done. I said, put it in writing in the contract, and they said, done. And they did it. Yeah. So I signed it. I ended up spending 7 years there. Yes. And over the course of 7 years, I started doing my own podcast, and I started teaching as an adjunct at a handful of universities, and things started to gain a little traction. And then Joe Biden put sanctions on the Russian media, and I lost my job.
Yep.
And so I had a couple of bucks saved, like not much, couple of bucks. And I decided I'm going to start my own podcast with a friend. Ended up doing 3 podcasts. I've since left one of them. But I was able to monetize all 3 of them. And I would supplement that with speeches, paid speeches all around the world. I'm far more popular in Europe and the Middle East than I am in the United States. So I was making a good bit of money overseas. And then 2 months ago, I gave an interview to a very popular podcaster, Stephen Bartlett, who does the Diary of a CEO. And a college student in Texas took that interview and chopped it up into shorts and gave me a funny Alvin and the Chipmunks voice and had lasers shooting out of my eyes. And it just scored like an atomic bomb with Gen Z. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I know, I'm on TV everywhere, and I'm doing cameo recordings. I can't keep up with cameos. This morning, let me look. What am I up to now? That are still pending. 111 are still pending.
Wow.
It's I can't do it all. But that led to me being signed by the biggest talent agency in the world, which includes a speakers bureau, and it includes an A-list literary agent. I've written 9 books. That also has supplemented my income. Well, instead of my books selling, 1,000 copies, 3,000 copies. My first one sold 150,000 copies, and we're going back to the big 5 again. So there is life after whistleblowing. Dan Ellsberg was wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that's so important to get that word out, isn't it? You don't
it
have to go
is.
out and hide in the woods anymore.
No,
You don't have to do that. And as long as we are able to facilitate each other, to help each other, I think we're going to see more and more stories like yours.
I think you're
Now,
right.
yes, and now I understand you're going to National Whistleblower Day possibly in July of
I
this
have to
year.
tell you, I love National Whistleblower Day. It's an event that the National Whistleblower Center puts on every year. It's always a major
Major.
event on Capitol Hill. It's always held in the Kennedy Caucus Room, which is not just, the biggest room on Capitol Hill. It's the most historic
Yes.
single room anywhere on Capitol Hill. It's where every major Senate hearing, from the sinking of the Titanic to Watergate and Iran Contra, has been held. And you pack that place every single year. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic day. It's a fantastic lunch. And then you get, A-list movers and shakers from Capitol Hill, senators, congressmen, committee chairmen, to come and celebrate whistleblowers. It's an event that no whistleblower or supporter should miss.
Well, that's why I'm so excited you're coming this year.
I am too.
And Tom Drake came last year,
Yes,
and
indeed.
I was just so impressed with him. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
So what would you tell that little boy who told his dad years and years ago that he wanted to be a spy? What if you had the chance to travel back, what would you tell him?
Always tell the truth and do the right thing, which is exactly what I was raised to do. I say all the time, Jane, we all know in our gut the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
It's just a basic human understanding. The question is, do we then do what's right? Or do we do what's easy? Do we do what's expedient? So I would tell that little boy, your parents and grandparents were right. Do what's right and always tell the truth. And I think that's why I'm resonating with
Mhm.
this generation of people between 15 and 30 primarily, because I
Right.
tell the truth.
And that's become so rare these days. So yeah, I just am delighted. And here's the big one. If you had to do it over again, would you do it?
Oh yes, that's an easy question. The only thing I would do differently is have that lawyer sitting right next to me.
Mhm.
That is it. But yes, I would absolutely do it again.
And John, considering you are just a person of extreme integrity
Thank
and truth, what are your last words that you're going to part with here to our audience?
Oh, thank you. I want people to know, if you're thinking of blowing the whistle on waste, fraud, abuse, illegality, or threats to the public health or public safety, you are not alone. There's an entire community of supporters out there waiting for you. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help or ask for guidance. The support is there and it's waiting for you.
Wonderful. And does it scare you, John, that you may be entering those same ranks as Snowden, Drake? Uh, does that frighten you at all, or
No,
do you
you know what?
embrace it?
It's funny, Jane. We're all friends now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I participated in an event in Berlin, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's an event that I've done 2 or 3 times in the past. So I go to the hotel and I check in, and the woman says, "Oh, I don't see you on the computer. Are you on this list for the conference?" And she gives me a list of a dozen people, and every single one of them is a friend of mine. It was
Wow.
Tom Drake and Jesselyn Radak and Terry Albury
Oh, Terry,
and
yeah.
yeah, and Lisa Ling, and just everybody on the list was a whistleblower, and an outspoken whistleblower at that. It was fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Loved it.
And I see nothing but just wonderful things happening to you in the future, John. And
Oh,
you
thank
deserve
you.
it.
From
And you
your
deserve
lips
it.
to God's ears. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you
to
for
see
joining our podcast, Whistleblower of the Week.
Thanks
You
for
are a
having me.
hero.
Thank you so much for everything. Thank
You
you.
bet.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find more whistleblower stories at whistleblowersblog.org. Music by Rachel Kilgore, guest booking by Victoria Thompson, and editing by Anissa Cheek. Whistleblower of the Week is a production of Whistleblower Network News. The views expressed by podcast guests are their own and not those of Whistleblower Network News.